So last week, Zillow released a brand new report on the most expensive cities in all of the United States here in 2024, and Denver was ranked as one of the most expensive cities. In this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 4 parts of Denver that ranked at the top of their list. We're going to be doing this by sharing different zip codes with you. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these areas and what makes them so expensive, as well as just share some personal insights as a 40-year Colorado native on why I think these different areas are so expensive. But before we get started, my name is Adam Lang. I'm a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado, and I love making videos like this, but what I really enjoy is just connecting with viewers like yourselves and hopefully finding out a few different ways that I can provide value as you continue to search and consider the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, as maybe a next place for you to move to and live. So hopefully you guys get some value out of this video. Please, if you haven't yet, hit that like and the subscribe button. Every week, releasing new videos, and I want to make sure you guys are the first ones to receive them. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. So as I said, Zillow just released a brand new article all about the most expensive cities in all of America, and Denver was at the top of this list. In this video, I'm going to break it down by sharing the 4 zip codes in Denver that were at the very top. You know, as a 40-year Colorado native, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these areas, sharing some personal experiences and insight into why I do think these are at the high end of the Denver city list of most expensive areas. And I'm also going to just go a little bit more in depth on a map style video so you can see exactly where each of these areas is located. So starting off at number 1. Number 1 is going to be zip code 80202. 80202 is an area that I'm very familiar with because I actually used to live directly next to this area. And this is going to be in Denver. It's going to be actually basically downtown Denver to be exact. Union Station and just a lot of the iconic places that you think of when you think of downtown Denver. This area is also referred to as the Central Business District or Union Station. And I think one of the reasons why this area is so expensive is it's just always been a very high trafficked area, and it has seen a ton of investment dollars spent to really revive and create an area that is just one of the most up-and-coming parts of Denver when it comes to, very high-end hotels, restaurants, shopping. There's just a lot of stuff going on in this area, and since it's just recently been developed and just improved, I should say, I think this is going to continue to be one of the most expensive. Typically in a lot of cities, the downtown districts are some of the most expensive, and I think with Denver, one unique thing that, it is in Denver and probably a lot of other cities nowadays is so many more people are working from home that there really isn't this high demand for people living in the downtown Denver where they can walk to their office job in the skyscraper a couple blocks away. So the fact that that really has dramatically changed ever since 2019 and 20 with COVID and just more remote workers and that being more acceptable for employers allowing remote work, I think that is over time going to continue to affect some of these downtown type areas. But for now, I definitely still think that this is very justified in being one of the very top zip codes in Denver for price per square foot. So I didn't mention this a second ago, but I do want to make sure you understand that Zillow based this with their economists off of the average price per square foot of any homes that have recently sold in these different areas in Denver. So as I said, this area specifically is basically going to be in a map from 14th up to about 20th. And this is, again, the area that's around Union Station, pretty close to Coors Field, our Colorado Rockies stadium, as well as just a lot of other restaurants and bars and just very popular amenities for people living in Denver. Zillow actually reports that in this area, average price per square foot was at $553 per square foot. Pretty crazy. One thing I'll leave you at before continuing on to number 2 is that, I grew up in Denver and I used to always go down to 16th Street Mall, which really fits within this zip code that we're talking about, downtown Denver. And 16th Street Mall used to be just a very popular, bustling, just exciting part of downtown Denver, and it's been a little depressing over the last few years because that has dramatically changed. Just with all, again, like I said earlier, with just a lot of people not working downtown in these skyscrapers anymore, a lot of the restaurants and bars and just all the different businesses around that were relying on that high volume of daily commuters for work. When a lot of that changed, a lot of the businesses also, unfortunately, were really hurt by this, and there are a lot of vacancies right now along 16th Street Mall and just this part of town. So I'd say that just to kind of give some perspective, perspective on, while it is the most expensive zip code here in Denver, there is also a lot of vacancy and a lot of areas that, just from a perspective of walking down this part of town, you might not expect it to be at the top of the list. So only time will tell. We'll see what happens over the next few years. But I do think that this, zip code in this part of downtown Denver will still remain very high on the price per square foot, just because of the sheer volume that this area attracts with other stuff around it, like Union Station and the Colorado Rockies Stadium and a lot of other just really high-end hotels and just stuff that brings people to this part of town. All right, so going right into number 2, the second zip code, is the second most high-priced per square foot part of Denver, is 80209. So this zip code is about $20 less per square foot. So this one is actually right at $532 per square foot. And this zip code in this part of Denver is one of my favorites. This includes Washington Park West, Spear Boulevard, and even parts of Cherry Creek. So this is an area that without a doubt is very justifiable on being at the top of the list, just because of how just great and popular and expensive a lot of the homes that I see on a daily basis are listed for in this part of town. So this area, it basically ranges from north and south, from Ellsworth Avenue all the way to Mississippi Avenue, but also east to west from about Colorado Boulevard over to Broadway. So Washington Park, if you haven't seen it, there's all kinds of great reasons why people choose to live in Wash Park. For one, it's got one of the best parks in all of Denver. Very vibrant, lots of just people on a daily basis enjoying it. Really good for walking your dog or playing intramural sports, just enjoying just the fact that you've got water as well as a beautiful view of the Denver skyline. And it's just a great, convenient part of Denver. If you do still work and have to commute to downtown, you're within about a 10 to 15 minute drive. In fact, you can even ride your bike or take public transportation and it'd be a very easy commute. And also, it's just an area that has a ton of character, and just it's very obvious why so many people decide that this is the spot for them. There are a lot of older homes, 1920s, bungalows, but also a lot of homes that have just seen the gentrification of Denver just growing and changing over the last 30 years. So there's also a lot of pop tops. If you don't know what that is, that's when they a developer would buy an older bungalow type home and basically pop the top to make it a 2-story, oftentimes also expanding its square footage deeper into the lot. So you'll just find bigger homes on either side of these old 1900 bungalow homes. So it just has a lot of character. Every single street in Washington Park area that you walk down, every home is different, just has a lot of character to it. And I love just walking around and just admiring all of that type of stuff and just thinking back to just some of the history and the stories that probably a lot of these homes have within them. And then in addition to Wash Park, Cherry Creek, Cherry Creek is one of my favorites. I love Cherry Creek. There's so much to do down there. And one of the reasons I love it so much, specifically Cherry Creek North, and that's basically the district that's right next to Cherry Creek Mall. What I love about that area is it is incredibly pedestrian friendly. It's a very walkable part of Cherry Creek. And there are a ton of amazing restaurants, bars, shops, hotels, just everything you can think of, all within just a 4 or 5 block area. So it is just a place that you can go down with your friends, and every single time you go down there, you can choose to go to a different restaurant. Everyone's going to be amazing, and there's just a ton of options. So if you're somebody that maybe grew up or lives currently in a big city or a place where you have a lot of that type of environment where you can just walk down a street and have tons of different options to choose from with restaurants, bars, all that good stuff, this is something that you're going to kind of, I think, relate to and probably appreciate, because in my opinion, it's one of the best in all of Denver for that specific purpose. So if you really like just walking around and just being in a little bit more of that community type feel, where you're walking down maybe on a daily basis and you live in this part of town, you're gonna start seeing familiar faces and just feeling that sense of community more than you will in some of the more spread out suburbs or these master plan communities that tend to be quite large. Pausing the video for 2 seconds, just want to remind you, my name is Adam Lang. I'm a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado. Love connecting with viewers just like yourselves, providing value in any way that I can. So that phone number, email, all that info that's popping up down below, we'd love to connect with you, so please reach out. And don't forget that like and that subscribe button, hit that as well, please. Every week I have new videos just like this. I want to make sure you're the first ones to receive them. But for now, let's get back to the rest of the video. All right, so number 3, the third most expensive zip code, the most expensive part of Denver, according to Zillow, is going to be 80211. And this is actually where I just moved from. This is including areas like Sloan's Lake, Highlands, and just basically all of that area directly west of downtown Denver. So I have a lot to share on this one specifically, just since I lived there for almost 5 years. And I will say that this one is only $2 less than the number 2. So number 2 zip code was $532 a square foot. This one is $530 a square foot. So as you can tell, these numbers are very close to one another, but I think that this one is very justified in being in the top 4 for Denver. And I've noticed myself, just from seeing over the last 5 years, just how much development has gone on and just how much property values have appreciated. You know, there's something that is very unique about this zip code, 80211, and this part of downtown Denver, just to the west of downtown Denver. And that is just the ability to have so much to do, so many different options, yet you're so close to the Broncos Stadium, to downtown Denver, to Meow Wolf, to all of these different attractions. They're just all right there, yet you're enough of a disconnect from there, only maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk, but you're just far enough away from there where it doesn't feel nearly as urban and much like a big city as it does in the other zip codes that I've shared with you earlier. So I love Sloan's Lake in particular because you do still feel like you're in more of a neighborhood and not quite as much of a, hustle bustle type downtown Denver environment. Sloan Lake is great also just because it's another area that has water, and it's similar to Washington Park that I mentioned a second ago. With Sloan's Lake, you have another spot where you have this beautiful body of water. It's about a 2.5 mile walk if you want to go all the way around the lake, and depending on what direction you are facing, if you're on the on the western side of Sloan Lake, looking east towards downtown Denver, you've got this great view of Sloan Lake, so the body of water, and then you have the skyline of Denver just directly behind that. So that's an amazing view. Go to the other side of Sloan's Lake facing west, and you've got that same beautiful body of water with the Rocky Mountains as the backdrop. I think it's got some of the best views of anywhere in Denver, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why this is one of the most expensive areas. So Highlands is also just bordering Sloan's Lake, is also considered in the same 80211 zip code. And Highlands is great because it's similar to Cherry Creek, where it has a lot of walkability. You can choose a lot of different restaurants you want to visit and go to. Nightclubs, bars, all that stuff is walkable within a couple block radius. So people that really like to just get home and then not have to get back in their car and drive halfway across town to go out to dinner or to go be social. With Highlands in this area, you have that similar great amenity of being able to walk pretty much anywhere. I really like that. There's also a couple other areas that are included in this 80211 zip code, and that would be Sunnyside and also Jefferson Park. Sunnyside is another area that I would definitely recommend looking a little bit more into if this is something that's really just exciting you and making you interested in this part of Denver. Sunnyside has been a little bit further behind Highlands and Sloan's Lake as far as the popularity and just the expansion and the growth that's happening in these different neighborhoods around downtown Denver. But Sunnyside, I feel like, is the next one up. It's finally starting to really gain some momentum, and you're seeing a lot of development now in this Sunnyside area. So if you act quick, you might be able to find a great deal in Sunnyside. However, I will warn you, it is part of this zip code that we're talking about right now, so it is still going to be seeing very high-priced per square foot real estate to choose from. Your best bet in some of these older type neighborhoods is finding homes that need a little bit of TLC, homes that can allow you to do some value add opportunities. And what I mean by that is just some sweat equity. For example, finding a home that maybe has a very old garage that is detached from the house, and you could maybe go in and improve it, maybe even pop it where there's a second story on the garage and have an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, maybe even have that as like a little studio for a mother-in-law unit if you have somebody that maybe would be living with you part-time. And then also you have the ability just to kind of consider getting creative with what other kinds of projects you could do yourself just to make that cost a little bit more realistic when it comes to your budget for getting into this part of town. All right, and then fourth and final, the fourth zip code for the top 4 most expensive areas within Denver is going to be 80212. So 80212 is kind of just really the remainder of the same exact part of town. So it's going to be the rest of Sloan's Lake, as well as some other areas like West Highland, and also the Berkeley neighborhood. So again, guys, this is all very close to one another. This is another area that has the same benefits to living in this part of town, which is that walkability and that, very minimal need to really get in your car and drive anywhere. So if you're somebody that does really appreciate and value that social life, that work-life balance, and you want to be able to live somewhere where you have a lot of opportunities just to walk out your door and, go places, this is definitely another spot to check out. For the price per square foot on this one, it's right at $525 a square foot. So only $5 cheaper than the previous one. So like I said, these are all within about $20 to $25 from number 1 down here to number 4. I will say that all 4 of these, since they are so close to one another, it's important to understand that, there is definitely a reason behind this. And I think there's a lot of value to being on the western side of downtown Denver. For one, a lot of people that live in Colorado live here for a reason. And one of those reasons is to be able to get to the mountains and just to enjoy the beautiful outdoor opportunities that were provided by being here in Denver, Colorado. So by being on the western side of town, you really do save a significant amount of commuting time when going up to the mountains, or even just to that western slope where Golden and even western Lakewood are, where you want to maybe go to Red Rocks or just go on a hike up Table Mountain, maybe go down into Golden and just spend the afternoon where you have a little bit more immediate proximity to the mountains. All of that stuff is so much easier to get to when you live on the western side of Denver, specifically in these zip codes that I'm talking about with you today. If you do live down further south, or maybe southeast in a place like Aurora, or maybe like Commerce City, just anywhere that's a little bit further away from, the western side of Denver, you're just gonna have a little bit longer, time, a longer commute to get over to the western slope. And for people that really value that, that's a deal breaker. That's enough of a reason to really focus their efforts on living and finding a place here on the western side of town. All right, so there we have it, guys. Top 4 most expensive zip codes in Denver 2024, according to Zillow and their expert economists that put this together. If you guys have any questions about any of these zip codes, maybe you'd like to check out a couple of the homes in person, I would love to connect with you. So again, my phone number, my email, all that info is down below. And don't let this scare you. I know these are expensive prices per square foot, over $500 for the average. However, there are still places in all 4 of these zip codes that have value, that have opportunity. And I think if you get with a local, or at least get with a professional that knows where to look, you can find deals out there and still make this a reality, even if you're on a budget. So until next week, really excited to continue to share great different aspects of living in Denver, Colorado with you. Hit that like and the subscribe button. And until next week, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Bye.